this lesson, we'll be talking about a very familiar thing in feng shui, yin and yang. I'm sure all of us have seen this symbol before, the Tai Chi symbol, or we simply call it the yin and yang symbol. And this is a very important symbol in feng shui because it represents the states of everything in the universe. I'm going to try to explain this and hopefully you'll understand in a few steps. So here, this is a blank circle. Imagine before the creation of anything. Just close your eyes and look into the sky, a cloudless sky. You can't see anything, no clouds, no birds, just the blue, and you look beyond into the depths of the universe. This is nothingness. That's what I mean. It's Wu-Ti, really nothing, absolutely nothing. That's before anything was created, but at the same time, the ingredients for everything is somewhere there, floating around. And that's when we have this, the very first seed of change. So Wu-Ti also means the promise, because when there is nothing, there's only but the promise of things to come. Then we have the next step, a very sharp line right down the middle. You have the black and the white, heaven and earth, night and day. Very important, this is the first time things become defined. Before everything was just this blob of bleh. And now suddenly you have something that's very, very clear. There's the darkness and the lightness. And now we have this. The straight line starts to curve a little bit. You have a bit of like movement, motion. When things start to transform, it represents how night becomes day, day becomes night. Winter becomes spring, spring becomes summer. Things start to change. And finally, we come back to this, the yin and yang symbol with the two little dots. These dots are very important. They mean that where there is night, there's always a little bit of day, and we need to understand day before we can understand night. We need to understand what is cold before we can appreciate what is hot, and vice versa. So, in feng shui, you are required to really understand your environment and your space very well, and so we try to break it down into like very sublime little symbols like this so that you can really understand things in their very smallest of nuances. Let me show you a little physical example. Here, I have a piece of paper. This is Wu-Ti, nothing, just blank. Now, I've made a sharp fold down the paper. You can see one side is light, one side is dark. This is yang, this is yin, right? And now, you still see the yang, you still see the yin, but you see everything in between through the curve. And that's what we're talking about. Nature is not that simple, it's not that straightforward. There's all the different variations. And this is when we need to create something else. Let me show you. Returning to yin and yang symbol. Here you have a line. The solid line represents yang, whereas the broken line represents yin. So as we have kind of understood yang represents light or day, it represents high energy, fast, forward, whereas yin is receding, is calmer, is quieter. And that's why the broken line represents, well, less of a line. And so, very simply, we are trying to create a binary code here where the yin is represented by broken lines, whereas yang is represented by a nice, strong line. And now we go on to the next page. Same thing, I have 3 lines, all yang. 3 lines, all yin. So this is very, very yang. This is very, very yin. This is the beginning of the trigrams. We start to have more versions of them. So this is super yang, super yin. This is mostly yin with a little bit of yang, mostly yang with a little bit of yin. And we come to here, the 8 trigrams. So you will see this very often in feng shui. They represent almost, well, it's representative of everything, of all the different types of states. Now this symbol here is nicely ordered. The yang is opposite the yin, things like that. There's another version where they're all mixed up, because in nature, everything is mixed up. By mixing it up, there'll be a cause for change. If everything is all in perfect balance, black opposite white, grey opposite grey, then nothing is going to happen. When you start mixing them up, that's when nature starts to go crazy. You have your thunderstorms and rain and snow, things like that. And we end up with the feng shui symbol. So I hope you follow, because now I'm going to explain why is this also important. You realize that some of them represent more yin, some of them represent more yang. So what does this have to do with our environment? So if you think about it, where there is sunlight is hotter, where it is winter is colder, all these things have an effect on us. These are environmental. And we try to give some sense into them through the directions that they face. This is the 8 trigrams with the different symbols, and each of them symbolizes a different thing. You notice all these cute little cartoons? Let me show you. So here we have the seasons. This is spring. This is summer. This is winter. This is autumn, right? Straightforward enough. Winter is a bit like nighttime, right? It's dark. Summer is a bit like midday. The sun is really, really strong. Spring is like the sunrise, where the sun is rising, a brand new day, a brand new year. And autumn is a bit like the sunset. So they have very similar qualities. And now in feng shui we have the elements. What does this remind you of? Blazing hot sun, midday, summer, fire. In feng shui, fire is represented by the triangle. How about this one? Winter, nighttime, water. It's a dark color. It's fluid, it's flowing. How about the sunrise? That is represented by the element of wood. In feng shui, the wood element is green. It's not brown. It represents growth, like a tree. Growth, flowers, spring, so that falls under here. And metal is a transformative element. You know, where you have a nice metal ball. Metal can be shiny, it can be hard. It comes in many different states. And so, autumn is a transformative season. It changes slowly. And so is the evening. Right in the heart of it all is the earth element. So you can see how all these simple lines can translate to the various states of things in life. And these are all placed in a similar fashion, you will notice. So here we have, I have oriented my symbol to be more like a normal Western compass, but normally in China, they will put south on top, just so you know. So here we have the fire element below. Same, we have spring, we have growth, the wood element, all in line with each other. And this corresponds also to the times of the day. So with that in mind, you realize that the way you position your house does have a connection to the universe around you, because everything is kind of related. Think of a room that faces east versus a room that faces west. They both get tons of light, but the feeling is different. The room that faces east is slightly cooler. You get this subtle ray of light in the morning, whereas the room that faces west has already taken on a lot of heat throughout the day. So it's warmer, it's more orange. The feeling of it is slightly different. You don't feel like you want to wake up in the western room. Or for that matter, think of a room that faces north. There's not much sunlight coming in at all. And the north room would feel a lot like winter, because there's not much sun. Even in the middle of summer, you're sitting in a room that faces north, you still get very, very mild reflected light. And that is how we want to appreciate our space, and that is why yin and yang is so important, to appreciate the qualities of space and light and temperature around you. So now that we've understood yin and yang, we understand the environment and its qualities. In the next lesson, we'll be looking into qi, energy, how the energy around our environment affects us.